Good.
There you go. Hi, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Love Your Work. This is my opportunity to talk to people who have moved to a place where they are doing work that they love. And I am really excited today to speak with our guest, Stephen English, because I didn't know Stephen. And someone that we have mutual connection with on LinkedIn had liked his posts, which made it possible for me to see. And his posts mentioned that he had been working in a toxic work environment and now he was doing work he loved. And I was like, I have to meet this dude because that is my thing. I think people should be doing work they love. And that's the reason for this program. So, Stephen, thank you for being here with us on Love Your Work. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Whitney. I really appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. So, tell us a little bit about what it is you're doing right now. You're a coach and a
Yeah.
speaker. And so, tell us what it is you're doing right now and what it is you love about what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, right now I'm doing coaching and training and speaking, and I put them in order of, let's say, the amount of time I do them. I have I think about 10. And it's funny, I have to ask myself, how many clients do I have? I think I have 10 right now off the top of my head, full-time, let's say one-on-one clients. And then I am offering training classes. I do them really pretty sporadically, right? Like just like any entrepreneur, I'm finding the business, I'm connecting with somebody, I'm inviting them into a conversation, I'm creating some need with them, I'm co-creating a need with them, and then I'm making a proposal.
Okay.
And so that's how, as far as the training is concerned, it's month to month in terms of finding new places to run training classes. And then the last one is speaking. And I've been paid to speak maybe a handful of times, and it's always a delight to have somebody pay me. But I'll say what's really funny is over the transition, the arc, from what I was doing in 2016 till today, it's actually gotten to the point where the payment is front loaded in the conversation. I've actually had people say to me now, they're like, we'd like to have you come out and speak to our group. And, we'd like to be able to put together a speaker fee for you. And in the past, it was always like an afterthought. Like I would speak, and then all of a sudden I'd get this email with like an Amazon gift card link or something like that. So it's really been an evolution. So those are the three main areas. And what I really look to help people with is introverted leaders especially
Mm,
have challenges when it comes to communication and networking and connecting with other people and being able to sell their ideas and get promoted in their roles. So this is really that's the wheelhouse that I'm working in, and particularly because I have had that challenge in my own past.
okay.
And I have a background in science and engineering, where a lot of those people, a lot of those introverts hang out. This is their chosen field. So that's kind of how I ended up helping those people in that particular area.
So, and one of the things that I found in doing this has been I guess it'll be 2 years this month that I've been doing this particular program, podcast, whatever you want to call it. And a recurring theme is that the people in particular who have moved into entrepreneurship, it has come out of some experience that they've had, right? And so whether it was, in particular, the niche that they're serving or the community that they're serving. So I am interested in knowing what it is that you love about what you're doing now.
Yeah.
These three things, or an
Yeah.
overarching of the three.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because across my entire career, I got to have little glimpses of these aspects in terms of helping people go from good to great, helping people identify a path forward in terms of their own growth in their career. I had an opportunity to help organizations do major change management activities, like deploying Six Sigma across the organization. And then, of course, I got involved in Toastmasters in 2008. So I got to do a lot of public speaking. Then, of course, I got, I want to say in 2003, even, I was given an opportunity to attend a Train the Trainer class for effective presentation skills. And then they said, hey, will you be the trainer? So there's been all of these little, let's say it's been a low percentage of the overall career. And I got to see glimpses of it.
Yeah.
And then what happened, and so to be frank, I felt like when I got out of college, I spent all this time and all this money getting these types of degrees. So a material science degree, a physics degree. As I mentioned, I said, well, I got to use this stuff. And it was, I had all these college loans. I was like, I better go to work, right? And I did. And so I worked in that industry for a lot of practical reasons. And then when things got stressful, I drank a lot and I suppressed emotions. And so I went through the middle crisis like so many people do. And I had a choice, right? I could either, double down on all of those things that were suppressing my emotions, or I could clean house. And I decided to clean house. And what that looked like was making a lot of changes in my life. And, principally, I would say the major change was eating the alcohol from my life. And they say in recovery, the good news is you get your feelings back. The bad news is you get your feelings back.
I can imagine, yes.
Yeah. And as a result, it allowed me to see like, oh my goodness, those low percentage times across my career, those, the training, the coaching, the public speaking, that was actually the time I was in my zone of genius, or when I felt most alive. And then filling out spreadsheets and calculating various lifetime models, or calculating statistical process control limits, or any of those engineering things, I could do it. I was in my zone of excellence. I was good at it, but it didn't light me up. And so that's how I eventually said, you know what, this is really where I want to be. And I'm going to start taking steps to get there.
And what was the final straw that for you that was like, okay, now is the time. I can't, not another minute, not another day. I've got to make a change. What was that for you?
I'm imagining the change that you're talking about is career change, or which change?
In the career.
Yeah. Well, what I did was I kind of took a safe route. I will admit that. So I'm sure that there's some people who, they get to a point and they're just like, I've had it. And they're kind of like, they have that take this job and shove it moment. And I didn't go that route. I decided
I'm not sure if this is a Stephen thing or a Whitney thing. So I'm going to give this a second. I seem to be moving. And I think I know what Stephen is going to say. Certainly in my experience, I've done it both ways. I think I've shared that with you guys before. I have done it both ways. I've walked off. There you are. It's okay. You're muted. You're muted.
Great. Okay. Where did you lose me?
You were just about to explain how you were not the one that just walked away from
it. I didn't just walk away. I parallel path. And what I did, like I said, is in like I told the internet, but it didn't get to you, is that in 2018, I finally said, look, I want to try this out. I want to try this whole coaching thing out. And I did what most people would do, is like, let me try to get some preparation, right? But I'm of the mind of perfection is paralysis. And I learned that at a very young age. I learned that at a very young age. And so I knew that I was not going to be able to do this perfectly. So what I did was I downloaded enough information from the internet to learn a little bit about coaching. And then I popped a flare on LinkedIn and I said, hey, I'm looking for 4 clients to serve while I learn coaching. And I mean, it's a pretty bad offer, right? If you think about it, like, hey, I'm an idiot. I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to help you. And I ended up
I
attracting two
think we've
people.
all been there. We've all
Oh,
been there.
oh yeah, yeah. I mean, or we lie and we like I only have room for one more client this month.
That's probably true too, because you're working a full-time job and a family, and you only have room for one client.
Right, right. No, I got you. There's also the marketing piece that you people using influencing skills.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah, but that's how I started it, and there was no, burning bush moment where I was like, that's it. And so I just started where I could. I started where I could, and I went and I had those first two clients, and one of them was $20 a session, and his mother paid, and then the other one was $50 a session, and he paid. And what was cool was that when I talked to so the second person paid $50 a session, he told me something very important, which was his wife had worked with a career coach and what she had paid. And so all of a sudden I had that was really cool. Learned from him a little bit of like what happened, with his spouse in that coaching arrangement. Oh, that's cool. So I learned there, and then I just kept doing it. I kept doing it, and and I would talk to other coaches, and that was actually the big thing right in the beginning. And I guess if there's and I know I'm actually answering more than your question, so I'm going to pause here a little bit.
No.
But really, what it was yeah, there was no breaking point initially. Now, what there was a point where I had ramped that thing to such a level that it became apparent to me that if I switched over and I just put all my effort into the coaching, right? Like I realized, look, I'm doing this well on 10 hours a week. What would 40 hours a week look like?
Right.
And I think that was, and I needed a nudge. And I was working with a coach at the time, and that was part of the nudge was, look, man, just, what's the worst that can happen? Safety net coaching. And that was it.
No, I think it's important that you share that, because it isn't for everyone to just walk away, right? And I have had in my life's experience a time when I walked away. It wasn't the world's greatest job. It didn't, but it paid the bills. But I walked away in the middle of my shift.
Oh, wow.
That's how bad it was, or I thought it was in my head. And then when I began this journey 3 years ago, there was a ramp up. I became a certified coach 10 years ago. And I did pretty much the same as you did. I had clients, and I was doing it as a side hustle to what I was doing, and learning how to run a business, how to be a coach, blah, blah, blah. And, trying to come up with a vision for what it was going to be. But there was a point for me where I was like, I can't do this thing anymore. And so I've got to get serious about what the next thing is going to be. And then it still took me some time to leave. So I think it's important for people to understand that you have to figure out which way works for you, or some combination of the two, right? It just because someone says, oh, and a lot of people will say this, you can't have a safety net, you can't have a plan B. If you're going to be successful, you just have to, jump and let your wings happen on the way down. And that's fine for some people, but that's not for everybody.
Right. I think that there's a big misconception out there that it's either or.
Yeah.
That it's either or. It's either I am 100% working for XYZ company, or I am on my own. And that is a big fallacy.
Yes.
And I think the main thing, if anybody's watching us today and they've got that idea, they're maybe it's a product, or maybe it's a service, or maybe whatever it might be, just start. Find somebody, even if like your working agreement at your company says that you can't, work in that other field somehow, or, let's say, for example, it's, you want to consult, but you want to consult in your current field, and there is an agreement with your company in your employment agreement that it says you can't do that. Well, the real key is you can't get money for it. You could start with volunteerism,
Right.
and you could go out there and volunteer and help somebody and get testimonials, get case studies, learn the way to do it through trial. There's a ton of things you can do. And a lot of people out there, they have that either or mentality. There was a gentleman at a former company who would take walnuts and then put like a spice on top of them and cook them.
Okay.
And then he would bring them to work and then have a jar of them, and people would come by and like, oh my God, these are so delicious. And I remember saying to him one day, I said, what is it that's really stopping you from creating if you have got 5 different flavor ideas, create small batches of all 5 and then take them to the farmer's market and then put them on a table and offer samples of each one, and then look at which samples at the end of the day have the least of the remaining inventory, if you will, in terms of more of the walnuts, and then say, okay, well, that's data. Now I know that I'm down to these 3 good flavors, and show back up the next weekend with those 3 flavors, maybe plus another one, and do this again and again and again and get data. And then at some point begin to monetize it.
Right.
And the thing is, you just got to start. And the problem is that most people have a really bad relationship with failure.
Yes.
They just have the wrong relationship with failure. They think it is final. They think that it's going to give them feelings that are going to make them have that they're going to all of a sudden they'll be home, curled up in a ball and crying. It's all BS.
Yes.
It's all BS.
Right. Exactly. I love that you said that wrong relationship with fear and failure, because that's exactly what it is, right? And most of it is not supported by any real data. And you're a data dude, right? You're an engineer, and you pay attention to that stuff. And most of us think that our feelings, the things that we feel, are real.
Yeah.
And I'm someone who says you're entitled to your feelings, feel what you feel, but you need to learn to distinguish between your feelings and reality.
Yeah.
And just because you feel a particular way doesn't make it so. So, and this thing about failure is definitely one of those. But the way you learn is to be willing to risk failure, right? Risk making mistakes and looking foolish, maybe, right? And it's okay. It's okay.
That's right.
No one that is an expert in anything started off as an expert. They all started as a beginner with some thought to take some action or to do something, and they kept at it until they got where they're going.
Absolutely. Yeah. Go for no. A lot of times I talk to clients and I'll tell them, like, read, there's a book called Fail Fast, Fail Often. Read that book. That's a wonderful book that will help you reframe the way to look at failure. Failure is a path to success. I mean, you think about, oh gosh, even Thomas Edison, right? Like how many times he tried to make that light bulb. I think it was 10,000 times, So imagine,
the story goes, yes.
Yeah. So the story goes, imagine that, or look at the number of times, Michael Jordan, missed a shot, or the number of times Wayne Gretzky missed a shot, or it goes on and on and on. And look at J.K. Rowling, number of publishers she went to and was rejected by until somebody accepted the Harry Potter series. And look at that. It's amazing.
Exactly. And it is incredible that, and I love the examples that you brought up. But here's another one that I think people can understand. If you have children, right, little children, and through bringing them up to adults, or if you don't have children or have the opportunity to observe other people's children, think back to a time when you were a child.
Yeah.
Right. Parents and others support the failure of children. when they're learning to walk, when they're learning to talk, when they're learning to write. We're embracing that. We're celebrating every attempt, every try. And then there gets to be some age at which there's some miracle is supposed to have happened. And all of a sudden, we're not about trying. We're not about experimenting. We're about only doing it perfectly. And if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it at all.
Mhm.
And that doesn't serve anyone. And it certainly doesn't serve you who are watching and listening, right?
Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to take chances and to make mistakes so that you can learn and move forward.
Absolutely. Completely agree. And that was what had to happen for me is I had no background in sales. And let's face it, so much of coaching is selling coaching. And so that was a huge struggle for me initially. And I've just, I just go into every conversation. I mean, I've taken classes in it. I've been coached in how to sell, and in every single time it's the same. I get the same feeling. There's a little bit of anxiety, and then I get excited, and then I get into the conversation, and then I start to find like, what is it that is really interesting to this person, and then how am I interested in them, and how do I want to help them? So I've had to overcome my own relationship with that fear of failure. And I mean, I would say to anybody out there who's watching this, just try. I mean, it's so sad that Nike stole the "just do it" thing, but it's so true. Just go out there and maybe make a plan for how many different ways you can try something at the start, and then ask yourself, like, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen, and then how's that going to feel when that happens, and just kind of get ahead of it a little bit.
I love that. And I'm a believer in that, to ask that question. And then the opposite question is, what's the best that can happen, right? So you ask what's the worst that can happen. And probably 99.99999% of the time, it's not going to kill you.
Yeah.
And if it's not going to kill you, then really what are you worried about? What someone else thinks, who is in a state of fear, who won't try anything either.
Yeah.
Right. And so we tend to be concerned about, and I get it, we are wired for self-protection and self-preservation, and we don't want to look bad, and our brains looking for the easy way out and all of that. But that doesn't lead us to our greatest, right? It doesn't lead us to a place that allows us to serve from our highest potential. And so holding on to that, because you're worried about what someone else may think about you, when what they're probably really thinking is, wow, how courageous you are to have tried that. I could never do that, right?
I think if the data was really in, we'd find that people think less about us than we believe they think.
Absolutely.
And they're more concerned about themselves.
Absolutely.
Just like you and I, in this moment, we're having thoughts ourselves. We're less concerned about the judgment, like judging another person.
Right.
So yeah, like it's kind of a funny, it's kind of a funny thought that, in a lot of ways, like nobody really cares. And it's, and that's a good thing, like it's really liberating to realize, like, no one gives a crap. Like, you're more worried about your own crap than everybody else is. So
absolutely,
just go out there and go and do it. It's funny, you talk about that worry about how you'll be viewed and everything. There was a point where, so I used to do bicycle motocross, so big guys on little bikes, and the little tiny 20-inch wheels. And I would go out on the track, and I had that feeling like, oh my God, I'm going to lose. And, sometimes I would have, and these would be they would actually be rational fears, because I hadn't been on the bike in a long time, and I was kind of out of shape, and this and that. But then I had that realization one day. I was like, look, I'm one of the few 40-year-old men out on that bike track. I'm lapping everybody on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like everybody,
yes.
Like most of the people on a Sunday afternoon, especially once I had given up alcohol, I was thinking to myself, well, there's a lot of dudes my age who are just basically sitting on a couch right now with a Miller Lite in their hand. and I'm at the track and I'm doing laps. So I really shouldn't give a crap about what those people
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's the dreamers and it's the doers, the action
this,
takers.
that's right. The strivers, the
Ultimately.
seekers. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So let's talk a little bit about before you became a coach. You mentioned that you were an engineer, still are an engineer somewhere in there, I'm sure, right? There was something that attracted you to that, but I want to go back even before that. So, what was the very first job that you ever had?
Oh, that's a funny question. The first job I ever had, and I'm assuming you say first, as in like somebody wrote me a check, even if it was kind of like under the table, probably too young to be
Yes.
working.
Yes.
Yeah. I was stuffing envelopes at the Professional Golfers Association uh,
How
in in
cool. How
in
cool
Palm
is that?
in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. So a lot of people, what happened there was the people who worked at PGA, they invited their children or family members to come and stuff envelopes, and then we all got like a small amount of money, and that was a lot of fun. Just you basically taking a yeah, I mean, stuffing envelopes. I don't think I need to go into detail. It's a very complicated process, let me tell you. Involved data mining and large computers. Now, and so yeah, that was really where I started. And then I mean, it evolved. I spooled gold. That was a trip. Spooled fake gold.
Interesting.
Yeah, I took fake.
Rumpelstiltskin.
No, I wish it would have been real gold. It was I'm gonna date myself. Do you remember Kmart? Kmart used to sell these fake gold chains that were spooled. So the spooling
Oh
of
my God.
them, I did that. So there would be like this giant spool. I would make the smaller 50 and 100-foot spools at this place called Inch of Gold, and I think I renamed it as Inch of Fake. But yeah, I mean, I did all kinds. I worked at Burger King. I worked at Radio Shack. Yeah, and on and on and on.
What were some of the lessons that you learned in those jobs? And I'm assuming some of those were things that you did not enjoy. Some you may not have enjoyed the work, but maybe you were working alongside friends and
Yeah.
that made it tolerable. But what were some of the lessons that you learned in those early jobs?
There's kind of like a couple of levels of that. There's like the lesson that I learned so immediately that it drove my decision making in the near term. And then there's the lessons that I learn or that I could see now from my vantage point. And I guess there's kind of that, like I said, there's kind of
Mm.
two levels of that. At the one level, and this is no disrespect to anybody who works in fast food, when I was working at Burger King, as you laugh, you're laughing. Like, hey, we live in a culture now. It's like I could now have people. I'll be banned. I'll be like walking in Burger King, and they're like, "You're not getting a
No,
Whopper. We
I've
don't."
been there. Food service,
Yeah.
I'm just
Oh,
gonna say it. It sucks. And
yeah.
for
It
the
does.
few who do it, who enjoy it, hats off.
That's right.
Food
That's right.
service sucks.
That's right. And that was the thing there. I remember looking around there, and I had a manager. He was in his mid 20s, and those of you who are into prog rock of the 80s, there was a band called XTC, and he looked like Andy Partridge, the singer from the band. He dead on, right? Looked just like him. And I remember working at Burger King and thinking, I I need to ensure that I know enough and can bring enough value. And now I'm using my own. I was like, I ain't working here. I better study harder. It was probably the language then, and then that actually went on. That was actually the same theme from Radio Shack. So there was a time.
Seem to have lost Stephen yet again. So we'll wait for him to come back. But I'm thinking, having worked in, jobs in my early career that I didn't like, I can understand, I think the thought process that he's about to share, which is I don't want to do this. So better get it together and do XYZ. So I don't know if he's going to be able to. We lost him. He will come back. Don't you just love technology? It's like everything we can do to be on the ball. It's okay.
Yeah,
It's technology. It's life.
Yeah, no, my
Life.
my younger son is telling me that it's on my side. So I gotta have a come to Jesus conversation with AT&T after this today.
It's okay. You were talking about, except that we just lost,
Part.
pseudo lost you again. Okay, you're
Yeah,
back. So
yeah,
you were talking about Burger King,
yeah.
Radio
Burger
Shack.
King, Radio Shack, and just you know the fact that you needed to get you need to learn something so you can bring some value so that people will pay you and you won't have to work in these conditions. And what I mean by the conditions is that and that was kind of the in hindsight was I was always the guy that when other people didn't want to do the work, I would do the work. And there was a time at at Burger King, where one of the employees, you know, threw his milkshake down onto the floor, and the manager was like, "Hey, English, will you clean that up?" And I was like, "Okay," you know, that's my people pleaser in me as well, you know. And so anyway, there's a lot of learning in there. I think that was some of the as for the
You're a
positive.
better man than me, because
Mhm.
that would have been the first job I would have walked off of in the
I
middle
know.
of a shift. I was like, yeah, no, no.
Yeah. And it went on and on because I mean I had another experience at Samsung, and this was, you know, I was a full adult, and I went into a meeting one time, and it was, you know, so Samsung's Korean owned and Korean managed, and they have some local management as well. I come into a meeting and it's about an error that happened, and at first the meeting starts bilingual. Well, actually, first it starts in English because all three of us speak English. And then all of a sudden, the meeting went into pure Korean, and I heard my name. And I was telling my dad that story. My dad's like, "I would have walked out." And
Wow.
but I sat there, you know, and that was kind of like the fear, people pleasing, and all
Mm-hmm,
that. It's like
mm-hmm.
I could never get another job. I could never, you know, and so many people live in that. So anyhow, that was something, you know, I don't know. Like as far as lessons, I'm trying to think about like what was the thing that like in those early jobs that showed me, hey, this is what I want to do. It's tough, you know. I think I like people. I did find that like when I worked at Radio Shack,
Okay.
yeah, I didn't shy away from talking with the public, and I wasn't good at the sales process necessarily in terms of like asking for the sale because that seemed
Right.
kind of scary for me. But as far as like problem solving with another person when they came into the store, they're like, "Hey, this thing doesn't work." You know, I would engage with them, and I didn't feel, you know, very distant, you know, from them. So yeah, I mean, I guess that would have been the one thing I would have caught is like, hey, I'm a bit of a people person. I love people,
Okay.
but I'm also
Okay.
a people pleaser, which was the negative side of that.
So how did you end up in material science and engineering? What was sort of
I
the
think I think you touched on a little bit of like the easy path. I don't know. I was trying to think
mm,
about 20 something minutes ago, or maybe 10 minutes ago in this conversation, said something about like the easy path. And that's what it was. It's like, I was just cut to be good at math and science. At an early age, it was very apparent. I remember in fifth grade, they would hand out the worksheets for the math problems, and I would blaze through them. And then the teacher would use me. Yeah. The teacher would use me to help the other folks, and I would go and tutor there. And then I was tutoring in high school. I tutored trigonometry and calculus in high school,
oh,
chemistry,
how
physics.
hilarious. It's
Yeah.
funny. I same thing. Same
Yeah.
thing. Studied applied mathematics at Berkeley. Did not finish my degree there though. And I'm just was listening. It's like funny how we started there, love for math, science, and then ended up in a in a
Oh,
in a place where that's out the window, and it's about people, right?
yeah.
It's about helping people be the best they can be, to live their dreams, and to do work that they love, right? That it's like totally not there. And I would say the same thing. It was the easy path, even
Yeah.
though math at Berkeley was not easy at
Oh, I'm
all.
sure it wasn't at all.
It was not easy,
Hey,
and that's
I
by
took
the
linear, I
fact that
took
I didn't
linear,
finish.
yeah, I took linear algebra and second order partial differential equations. I know those things are tough.
My God. Oh my God. Yeah. Ring theory. I'm still waiting to learn. I don't know. I'm thinking some download will just happen. I will finish ring theory. I don't know, before I'm done here. That's my, like, if I had a bucket list
Oh,
thing,
bucket list.
just so I could say that I finished, it would be to complete ring theory and get my degree from there. But I've moved on. I'm okay.
That's
I'm
right.
okay.
You're at peace with this. I'm at peace with not having ring theory. I might be able to connect you with some people who can help you.
That would be awesome.
I know some really smart people from North Carolina State.
That would be awesome. So, Steve, as we wrap up, what is a piece of advice you would like to give someone who it finds himself in an environment, a work environment they are not enjoying? Or maybe it's run its course. Maybe it's not a toxic environment like you found yourself in. It's just a career that's run its course. They're ready to move on. And a piece of advice or a couple of things that they could be thinking about that would help them to start to plan how to move into their next chapter. So I asked that and he freezes yet again. And then he's gone. Then he's gone. Technology. It's okay, right? If I worried about what happened with technology, I would just sit here all day doing nothing. He will eventually come back. We will wrap this up. We'll get his brilliant advice. And in the meantime, what
I can't believe it. I'm really like, this is so funny. I had the same thing happen. I taught a class about a month ago. And I remember looking up afterwards, there was a giant Zoom outage, but my kids telling me it's the internets, and my computer's telling me the same thing. It's funny. It's almost like there's a sensor, like it has an importance sensor. Like it's like, oh, we can sense that this is an important conversation for you. And then they're like, let's just go ahead and mess the internet up.
hey, you know what? Whatever.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Exactly.
It is what it is. You know, and
I was asking you if you
Yeah.
had a piece of advice that you would like to leave the audience with if someone's looking to make some change in their career.
Oof. I think it's kind of like I said a little earlier ago, and that's actually one of my pet peeves is when people say, like I said earlier, but I'm going to pet peeve myself. It is really just start. It is just start. No, actually, okay, here we go. This is maybe even a little bit better. Look for someone out there who's already doing what it is that you want to do. And recognize that the difference between you and them is belief that they can do it. That's the biggest thing, right? Like the belief. And then just start. Like, so first of all, like see what they're doing, and then maybe model it, and then just start. I would say that's the big thing. And if you're an innovator and you're the kind of person who doesn't want to do what somebody else has already done, that's cool in the gang too. Just recognize that means you're going to need to make a lot of like minimum viable products. In other words, like rapid prototyping and taking it to the market a lot of times. And that's a bit different. But most of us, there's really nothing new under the sun unless you're Elon Musk.
Yes.
But like for you and I, Whitney, right? Like we're doing stuff that, Zig Ziglar was a speaker 70 years ago or whatever. Like, and the coaching.
Tony Robbins been doing this for the past.
Yeah, exactly. Jim Rohn before him, and so forth and so on. And so we're doing stuff that other people have done, and we're just putting our brand on it. We're helping a particular market segment and whatnot. And I'm sure that 99.995% of the people out there would be doing something that's something close to done before. So find that person that's doing it and see what they've done and recognize that, yeah, the big difference is the belief that they can do it, and go do it. Start small. There you go. Maybe that too.
Absolutely. I think that's wise advice, and it's really important. You don't have to go from 0 to 60 in one step. Take baby steps, read an article, read a book, listen to a podcast, watch a podcast, right?
That's
Connect with Steve on LinkedIn and at what's your web address?
Yeah, it's www.stephenenglish.net. All lowercase, all one word. Stephen with a V, not a PH, because we call those Stephanies. Just joking.
You're hilarious.
I have fun. Hey, no, that's the main thing, is that, and start having more fun. Like life, we got one trip on this little roller coaster, and certainly suffering through it and doing stuff for other people. It's not a path to really having maximum impact. And I think that you and I both know that when we are doing the thing that we find to bring us joy and we're passionate about, we're actually better at it than that other thing we used to do just because of obligation.
Absolutely. And better at life, right?
Yeah.
Enjoying life. And I think you're absolutely right. We get one trip here, right? In this vessel.
That's right.
If you're a believer in multiple, then you come back and you do it some other way till you learn the lesson that you only get one trip, so you might as well enjoy it. So Absolutely. You might as well enjoy it, and work is a huge part of that. And you get to decide. It's a choice. It's a choice. And I love, you mentioned this earlier, and I'll wrap up on this point, which was, sticking with something because of the time and money that you put into getting to a particular place. Having done that with law school, and, particularly if you walk away with debt and you feel like you have to, there's nothing that says while you're doing that, and you did it, I did it, while you're doing that, creating a plan to move you somewhere else. Mm-hmm. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
And Steve will be here to help you do that. I'm here to help you do that. Again, check him out on LinkedIn. He's got some great things that he's doing over there. And then check out his website. I won't do it like he did.
Exactly. www.stephenenglish.net. I was told today by another person I was on a call with, they're like, you need to do a podcast. And I said, well, a lot of podcasters out there, but yeah, maybe I will. I don't know. It's time, right? Like, where do you want to put your priorities?
You can do that, or you can be a guest on a podcast as much as you want and not have the responsibility of running a podcast. How about that for us?
Yeah, exactly. That's it's actually what I told them. I said, I have a collection. So in my biography.doc file, I have a collection of links to podcasts that I've been on. And yeah, really great to be on your video and your video podcast. I apologize for any of the technical foibles. It keeps reinforcing this idea that I'm just going to hardwire, and I'm going to make some phone calls.
Let's hold some people accountable.
I want to talk to your supervisor.
Let's hold them accountable today. You Definitely. Tell them everything that it cost you.
Exactly. I'm going to say thousands and thousands of dollars customers from this one call that are, they're like, man, we can't work with Steve English. He's got a faulty Zoom. Anyhow, really great to be on the show. I really do hope some people will, start following me. LinkedIn is my jam. I post a lot over there, a lot of very helpful stuff and sometimes not so helpful stuff, but
he's doing great work. I am saying, check him out, go there, connect with him. If you want to see how you can work with him, go to his website. Thank you for joining us today on Love Your Work. Thank you, Stephen, for being here 3 or 4 times, I think. Thank you for your persistence.
I know. Look at that. I've been on the show 4 times already. in 1 hour.
Love it. And so have a great rest of your day. And until next time, take care.